Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 93rd Fireside Chat with Thomas Campbell. I am your co host, Adam Hashin, joined by the lovely Donna Aveni, and we are thrilled to bring you another wonderful chat. As always, I like to remind everyone that we tend to like questions of a general nature here so they can be spread out to wider audiences. However, don't let that hold you back from asking something personal and significant. But, depending on the nature of the question, it may not make the final video. Also, if you're still on the sidelines only watching these videos, there are all kinds of ways to participate and engage in the My Big Toe community. There are weekly Saturday Zoom meetings held by MBT events. These are some of my absolute favorite. And just recently, we have two more organizations established to help get Tom's work out to the general population. So, whether you want to volunteer or just meet some new people who are interested in consciousness, I encourage you to get involved and get on the mailing list. Many people find that they can speak freely about topics they could not otherwise in their daily life. And lastly, before we start, I want to mention CUSAC's upcoming event at the end of September and beginning of October in Huntsville, Alabama. There's already an incredible cast of speakers, including Tom, with all kinds of special events and presentations. Tickets are on sale now. You can find them at doorwaytothefuture.com, and it's shaping up to be an unmissable event. I know Tom has mentioned he is greatly reducing his in person events to enjoy his semi retirement and to focus on other work. So, who knows just how many times we'll have an opportunity to see him speak live and in person again. And that's also why we are so grateful to have him here today. So, enough of me talking. Let's jump right into our questions. We're going to go to Guillaume first. Guillaume, would you like to read your question?
Sure. Thanks, Adam. Hello, Tom. So my question today, it seems like that life pattern often emerge from for people struggling with the fear of being left alone. People with abandonment issues unconsciously test the people around them to see if they are going to leave. So they poke the bear, and poke the bear again and again to see if it's going to bite. The bear eventually bites them, and then they blame the bear for biting them when they created the very scenario that provoked it. When I kind of trace back to the root of this fear, it points directly to the fear of not being enough and not being worthy of love. So if, it's really a personal question, but somewhere in me there is something kind of a dead wish that simply wants to return to an emotional state that is known and that I'm kind of comfortable with. So it's a huge toxic trait and it's causing me so much difficulty in my relationships. And it's funny because when I have a relationship that is based on unconditional love, I think this pattern doesn't really emerge. So I want to get rid of that fear and end this toxic cycle. So it seems as if it's an unconscious pattern, as I said earlier. So can you help me with that, Tom?
Most of these patterns that fear pushes us into during life, you know, most of these are patterns that we don't know where they come from. They just seem to have us in their grip. You seem to have been spending some time to find out, basically what is this fear, and that's been bothering you, and you seem to have come along pretty well to identify it. So yes, typically you don't know the origin of the fear. The origin of the fear is often really not that important. It can be in some cases because you'll realize it's all just smoke and mirrors, it has nothing to do with you being inadequate. It just has to do with an attitude or a feeling you had when you were, 3 or 4 years old, and it seemed like you were inadequate, but that wasn't the story at all. There was something else going on completely that you didn't notice as a youngster. So often it's that sort of thing. But the big question then is, what do you do with it? Well, you've come through the first two steps. The first step is to realize that you have it. the second step is to try to understand how the fear has been affecting your life, to see how the fear is making your choices for you. It's the fear that causes you to choose to be, grumpy, or chooses to fear to lash out, or choose to get angry, or choose to feel insecure, unlovable, inadequate. All of those things is the fear that is kind of pushing you into these moods. Now that once you get that far where you understand that, then it's a matter of just having an intention strong enough to not be that way. Of course, the tension alone won't do it. That would be just way too easy. Everybody would have gotten rid of their fears if all you had to do is just make an intention. But it's important to make that intention and then realize that when you are expressing your fear, to recognize that, oh, I was about to get angry over that issue or that comment, or that person just triggered my abandonment button and makes me feel insecure. And I was going to respond to that, but you catch yourself. And then you just say, no, won't go there. And then, that's one time where you didn't. Or if you did start to argue or fuss or blame somebody, you catch yourself in the middle of it and stop and say, sorry, don't want to go there. So you have to catch yourself. And when you catch yourself and have that intention not to be that way, which is the sorry, don't want to go, don't want to be that way, then eventually you'll master it. It'll go away, because every time you do that, you make the fear weaker. Every instance of that where you stop it so it doesn't get its way with you, you make the fear weaker. So if that happens enough times, pretty soon the fear will be so weak that it doesn't bother you anymore, and then it'll just go away. So it sounds like the first part of this process you've already accomplished. Now it's the longer, more difficult process of catching yourself expressing a fear, and however it is you express, that fear, kinds of choices that it makes you make. You just have to be aware of it, very vigilant of why am I doing and saying what I'm doing, very much aware of what it is that is your intention, your cause. Catch it, stop it, don't go there, don't let it follow through. If you're in the middle of it, just quit. And eventually your fear will go away, because that sucks energy out of the fear. It didn't get its way with you. It didn't make you, blame that person. You maybe started to, but you didn't. It's a weaker fear now. It failed. So that's how you do it. And you just keep making that fear weaker piece by piece until it doesn't bother you anymore. Then you look for more fears. So you're on the path. That's good. Sounds like you're making progress.
Thanks, Tom. I just want to add, maybe I'm making progress, but when someone left you, or you have a good relationship and the person left, it leaves you with a lot of, suffering and being alone and that kind of stuff. In my relationship with some partner in my life, so I I want to highlight that, but I want also to say that sometimes evidently you want to be gentle with the people, and you want to spread some love, but sometimes you just want to be funny and go kind of goofy, and sometimes it's not really perceived like this, and so you're being kind of an asshole and you don't want to be. I don't want to be, but sometimes it's kind of going this way. So it's kind of pattern that I am in, and peu importe what is this the core of this fear, where in my childhood that came from. I don't really care, and thanks for highlighting that. But so that's it. You want to be gentle, but sometimes I'm acting like asshole,
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, you have to be aware of how people perceive you. So you have to be aware of other people. Some things that are appropriate to say in front of person A is not appropriate to say in front of person B. It depends on that person. Some people have lots of buttons on them, fear buttons of their own. And if you say something that triggers one of those fear buttons, they'll come out with, their claws will come out and their fangs will, kind of lengthen. So you have to understand that you need to speak to people in a way that's helpful to them, not something that is hurtful to them. So if they're very serious people doing something very serious, somebody in the family just died and they're all serious, that's not a good time to be humorous. That's a somber time. So you don't go in cracking jokes, in that environment. So it's just sensitivity to other people and where they are emotionally. And you can do that with your intent. If you try to learn to feel other people's feelings and then act appropriately, sometimes when you might have said something, you'll just keep your mouth closed and won't say anything because you can feel there's a lot of tension in the air. And you're likely to make it worse rather than better if you don't understand it. So just listen for a while until you do understand it. Then try to say something helpful. So there's times that you need to always not say certain things or take certain tones in situations with some people. So just be aware of that. And everybody's different. And if you're not sure, just don't say anything. Be quiet. Be the quiet, silent type for a while and just listen. And be a man of few words and say a few words when you're sure those few words are a good contribution. And otherwise, don't say anything. And it's amazing when you do that, if you can just not say much, except those times when you really have something to offer, people will begin to think you're very smart, a wise person. They'll believe that you have all kinds of wonderful traits that you may not even have. But people start seeing you in a very positive light when you don't say much. It's that old saying that, when you first meet people, you're brilliant, but as soon as you open your mouth, then, the truth comes out. So it's better to be quiet and not talk about it if you feel unsure of what you should say and when you should say it, rather than looking for attention. Like, you have to talk because, hey, everybody, look at me. I'm here. I want you to see me and recognize me. You just listen. Say things that are helpful to other people. People will have a much higher opinion of you in general, the less you say. That's a little odd, but that's the way it is. The more you say, the lower people's opinion will be of you in general. So that would be one thing. And you'll learn a lot more. If you're quiet, you'll learn a lot more. But eventually, after maybe 6 months or a year of quiet time, you will learn better what to say and when to say it. And then you can begin to speak more, but it will be well chosen. When you say something, it ought to be a well chosen thing. Now, if you just want to make people laugh, well, make sure that what you're going to say or do will be funny to them. Not just funny to you, but funny to them. And, dealing with other people is not a simple thing. If you just disregard the other people and just be whoever you are and they can like it or lump it, well, most of the time you'll end up getting yourself into trouble. It's better being sensitive to others and trying to treat them with respect and not just kind of jump in and demand attention. So that would be another thing to do. Just try listening for a while, and you'll learn a whole lot about being when you listen, because you'll see how other people are jumping in and making a mess of things. How when they do that, it causes problems. You'll see the kind of things that others do that everybody appreciates, and you can learn from the, both from the good moves and the bad moves that you see going on. But when it comes to the other things you said, you feel bad, somebody leaves you, and that's very upsetting. And so look for the positive. Don't dwell on the negative. So there may be a lot of negative feelings you have about them or or about yourself. Just don't go there. If they come up, stop, put them aside, go back and think something positive. Always look at the positive. Look at all the good things and the advantages that you have, all the possibilities of where you could go, who you could become, and keep focused on that. And the negative things that have happened to you, that's just lessons to learn, lessons to grow from. So don't think negatively about them, think positively about them. Now, what can I learn from that? What's the lesson in there for me? What should I learn? How can I change myself so I'm a better person? That's the way you look at that. It's not, oh no, look at that. I feel terrible. Why did they do that to me? That's just dwelling on the negative, and that will make you depressed. Depression will make your view of the world get smaller and smaller and smaller. So you like have blinders on, and all you can see is ugliness and dysfunction and things that are negative. Then your whole world is full of negativity because that's all you see. You reject all the positive stuff as not having anything to do with you. So be positive.
Thanks for the reminder, Tom. Thanks a lot.
Hmm.
Good to hear here. Thanks.
Tom, our next question comes from Carolyn. Go ahead, Carolyn.
Hi, I'm curious about what are some common misconceptions people have about you?
Well, I'm not sure I would know that. There's probably a lot of misconceptions about me that I don't hear about. I would say one of them is that I'm very serious all the time. You know how the serious guru sits on his pallet and his lotus position and his back straight and is impeccable all the time. Yeah, well, I'm not like that. I I have found as you grow up, your life becomes fun. Your life becomes just full of joy and happiness. Um, I find a lot of joy in life, and I play a lot. Often people think that as people evolve, they kind of become more childlike. Well, in a way, that's true, but it's not that they become more childlike. It's just that they've always been that way. Other people who are too serious take themselves much too seriously, and who take life much too seriously, they tend to lose that as they grow older. They had it when they were children, when they were 4 or 5 or 6 or 7. They could just giggle and have fun over, almost anything would just be wonderful. And they have a lot of those wonderful times in their life, but then they get older and life is serious and they don't do that anymore. To sit around and giggle would be unadult-like, so people don't do that. But it's a shame that people don't do that, that they take themselves so seriously that they couldn't project that kind of image of just having fun. But so that would be one image that's probably not true of me. I love to have fun. For the people that are around me, I joke around and well, my books, are full of jokes, and that's because I'm full of jokes. And I find life to be just fun, 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 fun. But when I'm doing a fireside chat or something, well, I have to be serious and give serious answers because they're serious questions from serious people. So the whole thing's very serious. And so I act very serious too. There's a time for seriousness, no doubt, but life should be fun. Something else that people would misjudge. Because I'm older, they think I'm probably pretty representative of, old people who tend to kind of are stuck in their beliefs, kind of stuck in the ideas that they grew up with, and generally aren't very open-minded or that sort of thing. And they expect that. And generally, my ideas are more radical than most, 20 and 30-year-olds, and always have been. So that's a misperception that people find. I don't know. There's probably a lot more, but you may know of a few, Caroline.
Well, I think maybe a common thing is that like people just think that you know everything because you have all these supernatural abilities, so you can just tap into everything and see every answer and know the truth to everything.
Well, some of that is true, compared to the average person. I do get a lot of information that the average person doesn't get, but that doesn't mean life isn't fun. It's still fun. Matter of fact, if you have interacted much with the larger consciousness system, you will find it has a really good sense of humor. It does things to you all the time that set you up into a funny situation that you can grow from. And it's yeah, but that doesn't, yeah, knowing extra stuff, all that does is give you a bigger decision space. We have a decision space, all the choices that we can make. The more you grow up, the bigger your decision space gets. So it doesn't really make you any different about how you approach that information, what you do with it, the choices you make, they're just an expression of you. But you have more decision space, more possibilities exist in the world that other people don't see. So that's the main difference there. So, everybody is just who they are, and I have I have things to learn as well. Everybody has lessons that they can practice and work. And if you're not busy learning lessons, you should be busy helping other people learn lessons. Interesting question. Never got asked that question before. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Super
Thank
interesting.
you. Thank you for your originality, Caroline.
All right, Marla, you're up.
I was prepared to be number 4. Hold on. Let me get my molecules ready. Okay, so this sort of dovetails with Guillaume's question, and you introduced the decision space, Tom, which is really what I'm looking at as well. Something that happens to me is that I go to bed with frustration, and I wake up and I feel as though I have achieved something someplace in the dream space, because I really think the LCS works with me. But I've had some real strange anxieties that I haven't had before. And I'm linking it to the young part of myself that, and I've talked about this with Ursula, we talk about this stuff all the time, but how there's a part of me that does not want to grow up regarding how to just not engage with watching people lie and lie and lie and lie and lie and lie and lie, because what happens is I see all of the layers and I see the history of the lies and I watch them and it's like sophistry, which is basically lying to win. So my question is, because I want to understand the deeper level, what does that do to the being level? Not just me watching it, but what happens to the being level of people who are literally doing this on a day-to-day basis, where they absolutely will not tell truths. They just layer with lies and chaos.
Most of these people are not aware that they are lying like that. If they stopped and thought about it, they might be. There are some that just say whatever they think you should hear. They are manipulating. They're trying to get you into a certain frame of mind, or to do something they want you to do, or whatever. And they're so used to manipulating people that they really lose their way and don't really know who they are. There's lots of people that if you ask them, who is the real you? What's the authentic you look like? They wouldn't have any idea. They wouldn't have a guess, because they've been inauthentic so long that they've lost the thread on authenticity. They wouldn't even have a guess at what the authentic them was like, because they've been, like you call it lying, but they've been, using their image, and that image will change depending on the situation they're in. If they're with these people, they have this image. Somebody else, is around, they have that image, and they aren't anything stable. They are just a collection of images that they play. And so it's not so much in their head that they're lying, as it is in their head that now they're playing this part, and now they're playing the next part, and they're playing a different part. So there is no truth in their world. It's not like, oh, what I'm saying now is not true. I'm just making this up because it sounds like what I want to say to these people. They don't really live in a world where things are true and not true. They live in a world where things to be said will have a reaction, that they want that reaction. Maybe the reaction is they want just people to like them, or they want people to think that they're smart, or they want people to give them money. It depends on, there's a lot of things they might want, but they try to be what is necessary for them to be to get what they want. So we have typically self-centered people who are in a manipulation phase. They have lost their sense of who they really are, to the point that they are just image, even to themselves. They don't have that authentic being at the root. So that is that's just the way some people are. They don't in their mind say, oh, I'm going to tell these lies and I'm going to tell those lies. And they don't think of it as lying. They think of it as just being smart and clever and astute, to say the right things to the right people at the right time to help them manipulate something to be the way they want it to be. To them, that's the way the game of life is played. You try to, stuff happens and you try to manipulate that stuff to be the way you want it. So I think that's what you see going on. A lot of people are that way, Marla. They just are the way people expect them to be. Oh, when I'm with my children expect me to be this way. And when I'm, with my friends that I play bridge with, they expect me to be this way. And when I'm, different places, I play to whatever other people expect and want. So it's not just manipulating things to be the way you want, it's you being also the way you think other people want you to be. And that you also can lose yourself that way. If you live your life that way, then who's the real authentic person? I have no idea. It's been so long since I've been authentic, I can't really tell you what that authentic person looks like. Well, the thing is, it's really hard to grow up. It's hard to learn It's hard to lower your entropy if you don't know who you are, if you're not authentic. How do you learn from something? Oh, I should have played a different role. You know, that's the conclusion you come up. Not I should have been a different person, because you're not really a person. You're just this set of images. There really isn't any person in there. There's just all these images that you use whenever they're needed. So how do you how do you learn? How do you grow? You don't really hold yourself accountable much for anything. You just like a chameleon, right? You put you in an environment and you'll find a way to blend in and be liked, and people will think you're great and think you're smart and think you're clever, and you just fit right in and do well. But that's not really you. You pretend to be that way because you want to fit in and you want people to like you. So that's just a thing that many of us have to struggle with. Who are we really? What's the honest us? And it's a hard question for most people to answer. You'd think it would be the easiest question in the world for anybody to answer, but it's not. It's a pretty hard question for most people to answer. What's the authentic you look like? Because we play so many roles. You have young kids and you play the mommy role. It's is that really you? Or is that you just doing what you think you should do? Because that's what mommies ought to do, because you read about it in a book and saw it on TV, so now you're trying to be that. See, that means the authentic you is hidden, deep. First step in growing up is find out who you are. Become authentic. Try that out. See how it works. See who that is.
So do you think that the anxiety when I'm watching other people do this is because of the dynamic that I had possibly with my parents that's still coming up to be healed? Because I talk to a lot of different people, but let's just take the television, for example. And it's easy to turn the television off, but I'm really looking at what is it doing to us when we're watching this chaos and we're watching people play these roles, and we might feel and we might know that they're roles, or they might not think of it that way, but I'm looking at what it does to the being level, our being level, their being level. So
it affects us. It does affect us very much. For kind of a bigger or stronger, more extreme example, people go to horror movies.
oh yeah.
When you go to a horror movie and are horrified in a horror movie and frightened, that is just one more experience that you've had in your life where you were terrified. Having a lot of experiences in your life when you were terrified is really not good for you. It undermines your security. It undermines your sense of self, the way you interact with people. It changes you. And one way to express that is that you go watch a horror movie and you suffer just a little bit of brain damage. It's not really brain damage. We know there is no brain, but that's just a metaphor. It actually makes you a worse person than you were before. Okay. Now, if you go into that horror movie and you aren't frightened because you see it's a bunch of silly stuff and there's going to be a bad guy hiding behind that bush, and you have a very light attitude toward it and you don't get terrified, then that's not true. The movie isn't going to bother you or hurt you. But if you go to a horror movie and you are horrified in the horror movie and you have all that tension, that builds up as the music goes dun, 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 and something awful, and the door squeaks, and all of this stuff that's supposed to build up tension. That builds up tension in you, then you can be damaged by that. It's not a good thing. And we look at sitcoms as kind of almost a dominant breed of entertainment. And if you look at those, they're people making fun of each other. It's not people being nice to each other and helpful to each other. It's people putting other people down, pulling up other people's faults and laughing at them. And it's very negative for the most part. And we find that funny. A more healthy individual wouldn't find that funny at all. They'd find that appalling that people would be that, careless and rude and hurtful to other people. But most of our sitcoms are based on other people being foolish or stupid or damaged, and we laugh at their damage, make fun of them. And we tend to do that then when we get out in the world. We see somebody who's handicapped, and we don't have empathy for them. We tend to either be afraid to even talk to them. We avoid them. We look someplace else. Afraid to look them in the eye because we can't meet them eye to eye. Or we, maybe crack jokes or other things, and that's really terrible. Most of what you see on TV represents a profoundly sick population, and by sick I mean low quality of consciousness. It's who we are, we humanity. It's what we've become. So, yeah, it's sad to I haven't watched a commercial TV station now for probably over 50 years. I just don't watch it. It's terrible. I listened to a song the other day that was playing, and it's an old 70s song about the guy who you'll probably recognize. I'll just kind of tell you what the story was. Maybe you'll recognize it. Somebody here can name the tune. But he's a young boy, and he wants to play with his father, and his father's too busy. And then he grows up, and he wants his father to do this, and his father's too busy. And then eventually he grows up and goes to college, and his father wants some time with him, but he's too busy. And he smiles and says, "Dad, yeah, I don't have time to talk to you. Just give me your car keys." And he smiles because he realizes he's getting Dad back. He's going to turn out just like you, which is the line that keeps repeating in the song. Dad, I'm just like you. Okay, well, that's a terrible song. And when they played that song, they had one of the persons who was around when that song was written. And this is in a Sirius XM channel, so they have a little gibber going on sometimes about the songs and who did them and when they were done. And this person was saying, "Yeah, I was there the first time he performed that, and it was just so lovely and so terrific that I swooned." And I'm thinking, it's one of the ugliest songs I've ever heard. Here's some boy that's been traumatized by his father. He gets a chance to solve that. And what does he do? He does the same thing.
Yeah.
It's sad. It's not, it's not lovely at all. But when most people hear that, they don't think of it that way. That's not the way their mind plays the song. Their mind plays this song as, Dad got his just desserts, that's, what you pass out comes around, and that's just the way it works. But it's a very sad song that somebody would take a chance now to create this great relationship that they always wanted, and they throw it away for vengeance. Yeah. Terribly sad song, but the song is not played that way, and I'd say there probably isn't one person in a million that gets that message out of that song. Everybody hears it and says, "Oh, yeah, what a cute song. Very nice. Lovely song." So it's just our culture. We are so, saturated by bad behavior, by meanness, by people putting other people down, by getting even, by vengeance. We're so saturated with that we don't notice it, even when it's right in our face. It's invisible. So that's just the way we are. We humans are at that level. That's why our world is the way it is. That's why our sitcoms are the way they are. Now, I have a lot of fun in life. I laugh a lot and joke a lot and spend a lot of my time just having a good time. But none of it is negative. None of it is hurtful. And that's the way humor should be. Humor ought to just be funny, not, somebody gets hurt. Isn't that funny? It's really kind of sick, but that's us. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
Oh,
it's
that's
just it's just the way we are, Marla. It's just our whole culture's like that. It's hard not to be like that because your entire culture supports that and is that way. You have to outgrow your culture to where
Yeah.
you're not a child of your culture anymore, because your culture is profoundly, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually ill.
Well, that's just great. We've just depressed Sylvia here. You can fix Sylvia now. I'm just gonna go cry for a little while. Thank you. Thank you. I totally get it. It's just, I mean, I always face, you know me, I face the things that come to me, and I deal with a lot of other energies and information that comes in all the time, but it really does feel like it's corroding something. So I really needed to bring it to the forefront to talk to you about.
Yeah, well, you just can't let it corrode you. Yes, we are in this sea of dysfunction, and you just have to not let that make you dysfunctional. You see? And the first step in that is where you are right now. You're aware of it. You're aware of this dysfunctional world that you live in. Yes, it's dysfunctional. Everywhere you look is dysfunction. But then you think, well, everybody out there that's in this dysfunctional state, they're doing the best they can with what they've got. When I mean with what they've got, what they came in with, the level of growth, the level of entropy they came in with, they're doing the best they can with what they've got. There's no way for them to skip a step and suddenly be, above that, out of that, outgrown it. You have to grow out of it one step at a time. So here are all these people doing the best they can with what they've got, and it's not very much, but they're learning maybe a little bit, maybe 100 lifetimes go by before they take one step in the opposite direction. But eventually they take that step, and now they're a little bit more grown. So we're at that point in time where the pace is starting to pick up. Look at 200,000 years, and the first 195,000 years of that was all the same. It was all warlord mentality. That's how we lived. Powerful told everybody else what to do, and if you didn't do it, you were run over, disposed of. So that's been our mentality for 98% of the time Homo sapiens been running around. Now we're at a place where we've grown up. The last 500 years, we've changed a lot. We have grown as a species. Homo sapiens has grown up a lot in the last 500 years compared to what we did in the almost 200,000 years before that. We've really made a lot of progress. So the thing is, now people are becoming aware of this. Oh, that's awful. Yeah, all this shallowness and falseness that we have, meanness toward each other, self-centeredness, is not a good thing. A lot of people are starting to be sensitive to that now. So that's good. It's a measure of our growing up. The fact that you're aware of it and it gnaws at you is a measure of your growing up. Okay? There was a time when you were just a part of it. Now that's not true anymore. You see it. And it bothers you. That's you growing up. So, that's the good news. A lot of people are growing up to see the culture for what it is, and they're trying to change it and make it better by fixing themselves. So in the next 2 or 3, 4 decades, I'm hoping we can take some giant steps and get rid of a lot of these issues we have now. You know, I mean, we've taken a lot of steps. You don't see anybody, you know, what, 500 years ago, you know, it was, I guess it was more than that, it was probably 1,000 years ago. You know, you saw people throwing gladiators in a ring to kill each other for their amusement. You know, well, we don't do that anymore. Haven't done that for a pretty long time. Well, we still do some of it. We put people in a ring and they try to bash each other with their fists until one of them can't stand up anymore. Okay, we sort of do that, but you know, we don't give them weapons and have them kill each other. You know, it's better. So we've grown up some, and I think we'll grow up more quickly than the next few decades, particularly if people realize the kind of reality they're in. And the whole point of being here is to become love. If they get that, then you know, we can grow up. We can take giant steps in growing up. And we've got an internet that can spread things like that, you know, fast. And before, they always stayed in the margin. So we've got promise here. So don't, where's Sylvia? I missed her picture. You know, don't cry, Sylvia. We're coming out the other end of this. We're getting better and better. And the things that you and Marla and most of the other people who are here, the things that you're doing is what's helping us get better. You know, it's the very stuff that you guys are all doing that are here that helps us all grow up. You're the people who want to grow up. You're the people who care about, you know, what they do and how they interact with other people, care whether they're right or wrong, you know, care whether they're being part of the solution or part of the problem. That's why you come to these things, because you do care about things like that. So, you know, that's different. So as people grow up, very slowly, humanity will grow up. And then we won't live in this trashy world anymore. We'll live in a much nicer place where people know who they are. Well, that was a long answer to a question, but I think I think it probably helped a whole lot of people today see, you know, the kind of situation we're in, and the correct approach to it is with compassion, not with anger, you know, not with feeling superior, but just with compassion. These people are doing the best they can with what they've got, and that's where they are. And they have to take the next step on their own. You can't take it for them. It's just they have to do it. And
Okay.
that's where we are.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Jerome, you're next. Jerome is new to the Fireside Chat. This is his first visit here. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Tom. Nice to meet you. So, I have a situation. It starts like 5 years ago, and I'm always was interested in spirituality and things. And so I start to communicate with other integrated units of consciousness. And so, like in my consciousness mind, they contacted me and they accompanied me since 7 months, a little bit different, and search a way out of my own mind space. So, like meditating and lying down to bed, it gets me on other places. So I start to see through the eyes from other people, and it's like a telepathic thing. And so some of these people told me they communicate through a frequency which is assigned to me by quantum systems and fields like Nature One, for example. So, and it feels like this Zoom space, yeah. And everybody who's communicate to me is like have the microphone on loud, and sometimes it's really it's hard to care. And so my question on you is, because I was not prepared for this, and I can do these things without experience. Like I do things on level 10, but I'm on level 1. You know what I mean? And so my question is how I could treat or handle this kind of situation in a affectionate and caring way.
Okay. The key thing is to always be positive. Okay? Positivity is absolutely essential. You talk with other beings. These other beings may tell you, they may help you with things, they may give you ideas. These things have to always be positive, not negative. Okay? So as long as it all stays positive, they're not telling you negative things. They're not telling you to do negative things. They're not, it's always positive and helpful. They never overrun your own free will. They never tell you what to do or how to be. They let you be who you are and just maybe give you guidance or some information, but they never set you up to do this or do that. If they do, if they tend to want to push you to do certain things in certain ways, then they're not
Yes,
the good guys. They are, the good guys will never try to overrun your free will. Free will is sacred. They only give you help by explaining other possibilities, showing you a bigger picture. You see, so that's one thing. Sometimes people get voices. Sometimes people connect with other beings, and they get a lot of negative stuff that is not so very nice, not good attitude, and that is something that you should walk away from. That's not good. As long as it's positive, as long as you feel it's helping you grow, it's helping you be more positive, then I'd, cast it off. If it is helping you be more positive and showing you bigger pictures, makes it easier for you to help people, then fine. Go with it, but don't feel you need to be at the same level as those who are talking to you. You don't, but don't let them tell you what to do or how to do it or how to think or what you should think about or feel about something. That if they try to do that, then turn them off. That's not the good guys. So that'd be my first thing, because some people end up with entities, and those entities are sometimes outside themselves, who are just negative entities, trying to turn somebody else negative, drive somebody crazy. They like chaos. Most of the time, it's a person's own fear. A person's own fear comes back to them in the form of entities. So that's what a lot of times happens to people. So I don't know enough about you or the people, the things they say to you, or that much, but I just caution you to look at it that way. If they're good guys, they just give you opportunities to grow. They'll point things out, but it's all your opportunity to grow. Then that's very helpful, and they will care. You will get the sense that they care a lot about you, not in the sense because they can manipulate you. They'll never do that, but just because they want to help you be who you are. Not somebody different than who you are, but first you have to be just who you are. So be cautious with what you do with people who come and want to tell you things. Be cautious with it. It can get you into a lot of trouble, or it can be very good. I talk to non-physical entities all the time. They're part of my life and have been for a long time. Some of them are my best friends in the sense that, I've talked to them since I was 5 years old, so I don't have any other people in my life that I've talked to since I was 5 years old, so some of these are my oldest friends. So it can be a good thing. But I've also talked to a lot of people who are tormented by the connections that they make. And that will never happen if these are positive entities. They only will have your best interest. So if they tend to be using you or manipulating you or whatever, you need to walk away. Otherwise, just live your life, make your choices. You know, stuff happens and you make your choices based on what you think's the lowest entropy choice. And everything else you just let fall out however it does. And you can do that with these entities too. If you're in communication with them, just live your life the way you would normally. Stuff happens. You have to make choices. Make your choices in the lowest entropy way you can and go on with it. If those choices you make turn out to be poor choices, learn from it. If they turn out to be good choices, learn from it. Learn from everything you do. And that is the rule that you should live by, whether you have any entities you talk to ever or don't. The life is still the same. It doesn't change. Stuff happens. You have to make choices. The quality of those choices will depend whether you evolve or de-evolve. And it's all up to you. You have free will. You have to make those choices. Don't let anybody else make those choices for you. If anybody else starts to telling you what to do, oh, you should do that. You should pick this other thing. That's not a friend. Friends don't tell you what to do. They only help you see bigger pictures or help you come to conclusions of your own. If anybody ever tries to push you or manipulate you into doing what they're doing, then that's not helpful. That's not a friend. That's somebody that's trying to take advantage of you.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Do you have an idea how I can train to control that? Because it feels like I get into a space and without knowing how I do these things, I don't know how I communicate. I don't know how I see these things. I don't know how I feel the things, you know? Sometimes I communicate with somebody which is sad, and then I get sad too and feel the same like it. And there are good and loveful entities, and there are entities that are aggressive and want me to do things. And how you to say so, get them off or turn around and go away. So I don't know where to go or how I get off. So I don't
Okay.
know how to separate. Do you have an
Okay.
idea?
Yeah, sure. One way is just your intent. When you talk to, it's the same thing you do with people you meet in the real world. You know, you go into your workspace or into a social space and you'll meet some people that you like and you spend time with them because they're positive and they don't try to tell you what to do. And other people you just don't like at all and you avoid them. Well, you do the same here. The people that you don't like or that are aggressive and so on, you just have an intention. Go away. Leave me alone. I will not interact with you. And you just don't interact with them. You, in your mind, act as if they don't exist. You ignore them completely. Because anytime you interact, you give them some of your energy. So you just don't interact with them. You ignore them like they are invisible, that you don't hear them, you don't see them. And by doing that, then they can't get any energy from you if you don't interact with them. And then they will eventually go away and leave you alone. So that's how you do it, is you just have to ignore them. You can't get angry at them, because if you get angry at them, you're really interacting with them, and that feeds them. That gives them energy. So if you get angry, say, I told you to go away. Well, that's tossing them nice tidbits, they'll feed on that. But if you ignore them entirely, even if you hear them, just don't act on it, just like you don't. Just ignore them completely. They eventually will leave you alone.
Okay, thank you for your ideas and advice, and I will try to handle the situation in an affectionate and caring way. So thanks, Tom.
You're welcome, Jerome.
Thanks.
Yeah, be firm. It takes a while. It's not quick. You're getting rid of the bad ones may take you 6 months or a year, don't, it's not going to, like, you're going to ignore them and a week later they'll disappear. Might not be that easy. Could be that easy, but it may not. So just be steadfast. Just keep doing it.
I will try my best.
Okay. Good.
That's some really great advice for some NPMR experiences, right? That's great. Tom, you ever have any really consistent negative things trying to get at you, you know, that you had to shut out?
Yeah, I had some like that, but they've all gone away a long, long time ago. So
Good.
they only are going to hang out where they can connect to you in some way. But if you refuse to connect, then there's nothing they can do. You know, you just shut them off.
Okay, we're gonna move on. Armin, you're next. You have a question for Tom?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I just want to add a thing to your experience, Jerome. I had one quite similar just once, and I reported it in a meditation state, kind of like perhaps it's a tool, but I kind of like send what happened to me to the source, just to report it, kind of like, and it felt good, and it never happened again. The negative stuff might help.